So Solar and I have been deliberating a topic for the past month, 3 months now, and it's on a JJK versus Destiny topic. The Guardian versus Gojo. I know. So, in this video, do keep in mind that Solar's coming in with a JJK scaling, I'm coming in with a Destiny scaling. We've had time to talk about this beforehand, and we're going to do more or less a live discussion of how we think the fight would go, talk about different scenarios that would go on in the fight, etc, etc. We're kind of just having an off-the-wall, off-the-grid talk, so, go sub to Solar if you want. He's awesome. He's the other Destiny scaler. He also knows shit I don't know. Like, for example, JJK, I know nothing about it. So, give him a shout out. Anyway, let's begin. Let's get one thing straight. We're not going to overscale and just argue everything to one-shot Gojo due to the fact that I don't believe that would make for a very fun video. So we're going to cap the scaling to universal or below. This being said, we'll talk about the comparable scaling ends you can use for such as well. For the Guardian, the easiest way to scale them is just simply refer to the Nezarec fight where they took attacks from Nezarec. Nezarec is the strongest disciple and right now the strongest raid boss. So this means the Guardian is able to take attacks from the 3 Hive Gods, who before even the start of Destiny 1 was able to enter and exit black holes with ease. This easily puts the Hive Gods anywhere from star level to solar system level before the start of Destiny 1. They get multiple times stronger by the time Destiny 1 starts, and then eventually Taken King era comes around. They should safely be in solar system to multi-solar system ranges, depending on how you argue answer increases. So I'd safely say solar system is consistent. Other than that, you can appeal to Behemoth lore and argue the Guardian planetary, and then use other stuff to support the Guardian being planetary, like, the Argo scaling, and then use Brachian. But, long and short, use the Nezarec fight. That's what I would do. It's the easiest thing to do. So, that's for AP and durability. For hacks and arsenal, that's something of a different conversation. Solar and I had this conversation the other day, and it goes like this. Under 10% of the Guardian's exotic weapons would be able to be used against Gojo. Any and all strand or stasis weapons, exotic or not, could be used against Gojo. Void is being thrown into the gray area as that seems to be a weird interaction with domain expansion, and it may be entirely possible that the Guardian could just destroy and or negate domain expansion with a single movement using Void. So we wanted to throw that into the gray area because it was unknown as a possibility. Otherwise, we'll talk about Strand and we'll also talk about Stasis. Stasis is force of will as well as control. If you either compared it to Sealing or Time hacks, you'd be correct on both accounts because it has overlapping properties with both. Yes, I'm going to leave that fuck up in, as well as that one too. For Strand, it's the opposite of Stasis, where instead of trying to grasp control, you have to let go of it. Strand, in this case, allows the Guardian to have a form of information analysis about the entire universe because the Strand dimension allows them to interact with the entire world, allowing them to learn about even entire universal time spaces. So this would work on an opponent even with a foreign realm that the Guardian would be unaware of, due to the fact that they wouldn't be able to reach a Strand dimension because the Strand dimension overlaps all other dimensions inside of it. Otherwise, a few cool things to bring up would be Winterbite. That's a win con against Gojo, assuming the Guardian is able to lock Gojo in place long enough to get a kill by stasis or suspending using Strand. With certain hacks using Strand, you can either suspend, you can unravel, you can have Woven Mail, which is a form of damage resist. Stasis also gives damage resist, but I worry about that also being something of a game mechanic, so we'll mostly make the argument using Strand, having Woven Mail. Now, there is also stacking arguments using gameplay, but I don't like using stacking arguments because while you can get away with it in a conversation, it's 50-50 on whether or not it's consistent, and it's most of the time gonna come off as really ratty. Otherwise, what I would worry about would be whether or not the Guardian would have access to Solar as well as Arc. Yes, I'm gonna leave that fuck up in too. As well as Arc in the fight. While those are less useful, it wouldn't work on domain expansion, unfortunately, due to the fact that domain expansion can lock the Guardian out of using his light abilities. Again, Void is a gray zone, but Gojo has nothing for the darkness subclasses as for actually locking them away as specific powers. Otherwise, something else to expect is something like the Weapons of Sorrow, with the exception of Necrochasm being useful, as well as maybe a few other exotics you might not have heard about being useful. Technically, Salvation's Grip is useful for traps, but then we have a bunch of other exotics we can talk about. But the point is, the Guardian has a massive arsenal, but Gojo does lock away over 90% of it.
Gojo Satoru is a white-haired, blue-eyed individual who is often regarded as the strongest in his verse, but the things that exactly make him strong are often not understood or just viewed in the wrong context. Most confusing of which notably would be the Infinity, which is his main win condition in pretty much any versus matchup that you put him in. A really simple and easy way to explain the Infinity would be that it's a technique that allows Gojo, or the user of which, to bring the concept of infinity into reality, which essentially just allows him to warp space in a few different ways. Most of you may know that the Limitless is the overarching technique that is passed down through the Gojo bloodline, the potential of which isn't fully realized until one is also born with the 6 eyes. The neutral application of the Limitless is the Infinity. Now what the technique does is that it creates an infinite amount of space between Gojo and whatever's attacking him, although there are things that can get through, such as air and light and the basic stuff, or else Gojo wouldn't be able to breathe or see. There is a misconception about this technique, however, and it's that it stops anything that gets near Gojo. In chapter 14, Gojo makes this distinction very clear against Jogo, and it's not so much that you're stopping, it's more that you're infinitely slowing down to the point where, you might as well just be halted. Now, to a person who isn't familiar with Gojo's powers, or Jujutsu Kaisen in general, this might make him seem incredibly broken, which, for the most part it does, seeing as though it's stated in JJK 0 that he can precisely control space on an atomic level. Now, things like light or subatomic particles are able to get through this. As I mentioned before, Gojo's able to see, of course. However, we don't know if light-based attacks are able to pierce through the Infinity altogether. In short, this is an automatic ability that was once manual, and Gojo can actually use things like speed, mass, shape, and intensity of cursed energy to distinguish whether or not an attack is coming, or if it's just a high five. So if you don't have a domain amplification or expansion, or a specific curse tool or technique that allows you to get through, you're not hitting Gojo. Now, as for the other applications of the Limitless, which is blue, red, and purple, let's start with blue. This is the violent pulling motion that you often see in the anime and manga. More recently, in season 2 of the anime, Gojo uses this to clear an entire forest so that a certain opponent has nowhere to hide. But it's much more than just a violent pulling effect. Essentially, what blue is a forced breakage in reality that causes the very reality itself to correct, causing the violent pulling sensation on anything that's near it. And what this forced breakage is negative space. Of course, there's another variant to this, and that's maximum blue. And essentially what a maximum technique is one pushing a technique to the absolute limit. This is used for a greater and even more catastrophic effect. Gojo also has incredible speeds, especially while in combat or while traveling around to places that he wants to go. Gojo does this by compressing 2 coordinates in space, which allows his body to move at incredibly high speeds, which is instant movement, or in some translations, teleportation. He also uses blue in combat to wrap his fist around in blue, which once again creates that sucking effect for more damage. Now, as for the red application, this is very simple. It's pretty much just a rejection of anything that comes near it. Gojo can also control sort of where and when red will explode, as we see in the Gojo and Sukuna fight a couple of chapters ago in the current manga. In fact, this back shot right here was due to that fact. Gojo essentially used a building that was around them and made red go around the building and give Sukuna an incredible back shot. Now, as for the hollow purple, this is a secret technique that's even kept from certain members of the Gojo family itself due to how destructive it can be. How this is made is Gojo combines the 2 infinities of red and blue into an imaginary mass. And if you remember this from science class, imaginary mass always travels faster than light. However, I'm not saying that Gojo's Hollow Purple travels at faster than light speeds. In fact, a lot of people in the fandom have a complication with this, and some will argue whether or not Gojo's manipulating tachyons or not, so it's really just up to you. Gojo can also amp this power to a considerable degree, as we've seen in Sukuna vs. Gojo. In fact, 2 chapters before the recent one that just came out, 237, where we all thought Gojo beat Sukuna finally, we've seen that he's capable of creating a Hollow Purple outside of his body. This results in a subsequent explosion of power that is way more destructive than the original Hollow Purple. Gojo's domain expansion is also pretty simple. The Immeasurable Void or Infinite Void, once it's cast, traps the target within a barrier that then forces about 2.5 years of knowledge, senses, touches, smells, and just general information into your brain all at once. This effectively immobilizes you, and Gojo can do whatever he wants to you at that point. He could hit you with a Hollow Purple, he could hit you with a red or a blue. Aside from Gojo touching you physically himself, there's not really a counter to it. You're just kind of stuck there. And Gojo in Shibuya has been seen casting this domain within 0.2 seconds. This of course limits the effect of the sure hit, but still immobilizes you nonetheless. And this is all possible because of one thing, that is the Six Eyes. As one that is born just with the Limitless on its own can't really make full use of the technique. This is due to how the Six Eyes work. Essentially, it just limits the amount of cursed energy that is used for techniques, so much so to the point where it's infinitesimal amounts. This is what allows Gojo to cast multiple domains per day. This is a feat that to other people in the verse would be really just impossible, as casting a domain requires most of your cursed energy if you're able to pull off a domain at all. The ocular ability also grants the user increased perception of time, as Gojo can see something in real time for a couple of seconds and then automatically have minutes passed within his own mind. In fact, this is how he got sealed in Shibuya. The gate that was used specifically requires the target to stay still in the 4-meter range for a minute. These eyes are so good in fact that even with blindfolds on and glasses made for the blind, Gojo can still see cursed energy as clear as a high resolution camera. And that's pretty much all of Gojo's abilities, as quick as I could probably list them.
So, Solar and I have went over Gojo and the Guardian in intimate enough detail. So let's talk about who would win in a normal fight and who would win in relative stats. So let's make sure we agree on like what we're talking about first. We both agree Gojo is molecular and atom stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he clearly has mind stuff, and you know, because how emotions work with karmic energy. So we both agree on that bit too. We agree on mind stuff too, right? Mind stuff, not just how do I put? No. I'm sorry. We both agree on spirit stuff too, right? That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, like that cursed energy can affect the soul.
Okay, good. So, and then there's like instances of like possibly conceptual stuff too, right?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
with that whole infinity thing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we can both agree on concepts too. That's good. Okay. So, now let's talk about the Guardian. We both agree the Guardian also has molecular atom stuff, right?
Definitely.
Okay. We both agree the Guardian also has the mind and spirit stuff too, right?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
on one level though, I do have a quick thing, because
Go ahead.
I wanted to know.
Mhm.
I know we've talked about like the Season of the Haunted stuff, and I assume that's where most of the mental kind of hacks come from.
No, there's
Or-
other stuff.
Okay.
Do you remember Season of the Risen?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to go in the Mindscape. You remember Season of Dawn?
Season of Dawn. Yeah.
So the Mindscape is a way better feat, but like they were doing similar but lesser stuff in Season of Dawn as well for a psychic. And then also you have the Guardian who has psychic energy through like Deep Sight. You know, that power they gained in Witch Queen. And then you have Savathun having psychic power, and then the Guardian having psychic power because Strand, you know, resides as a psychic power made form, right?
I see. Yeah.
There's a lot of mind stuff, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But like you don't have a problem with any of that though, right?
No. Yeah. I just wanted to kind of get some more information on that. I didn't know how it kind of translated.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so in relative stats, no, we'll talk about that in a minute. But in a normal fight, if we put the Guardian where Gojo scaled in like relativized stats for a normal fight, what do you think would happen?
Well, in like a regular fight, I'd say that Gojo at first, he would like, because if we say that the Guardian has cursed energy, which we kind of do have to do that, he's gonna notice the incredible amount of cursed energy, right? It might even be greater than his own, right? So to the point of him seeing that, he's going to notice with his six eyes, it's going to start processing all the kind of like different scenarios within his mind, right? It might even take up to like a minute within his own time, like in his head, but it could only be like a couple of seconds, right? So in that time, I'd say he's probably going to start out a little bit cocky, but then just like in Shibuya, he's going to get like serious. And at that point, it's going to be him using teleportation, to get into close range. Maybe even blast the Guardian back with his red, pull him back, and then, keep blasting him back or whatever. And then I don't know if the Guardian has like good hand-to-hand combat like training.
Yeah, they should.
Because I've never really seen it before. They should.
Well,
okay.
Here's the thing. It's not more so the gun. The gun is just the word for like the weapon for the Guardian. They can use swords, glaives. You have combination blow, right? Throwing hammers. You got Arc wanting to punch everything. You got Void Titan wanting to shield bash everything. Like, Guardians are masters of both weapons and unarmed combat.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Because I feel like whenever I watch Gojo fight and you like kind of slow down the frames, or even when you look at like in the manga when he fights, he slaps and punches like really fast. So it's more like I feel like a normal person fighting. It's not like he doesn't have any martial arts training or anything like that, because I mean, from you reading like the Sukuna versus Gojo fight, like you can see like he's had training and experience in just hand-to-hand combat. But it's like on a certain level, it's almost like you can see it's like a normal person fighting really fast, which makes sense, right? So I mean, the Guardian will probably be able to keep up.
Yeah, I'm willing to say though that Gojo probably has, because he has more instances of CQC. I think it's fine if we give him CQC. Like the Guardian can keep up, but it's going to be apparent that Gojo's superior in that regard. I think we can agree on that for this case, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's call another thing into question. Well, obviously, immeasurable speed and all that's locked down, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so... what is Gojo's probability of using the Void attack? Sending him and the Guardian into, like, his domain.
So, like his Void attack, like blue, right? Or hollow purple?
Yeah, one of those.
Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, so the Void attack, I mean, if you're talking about the blue, which I remember we were talking about it before. This is like kind of like similar to Void, has like similar effects or whatever. He's gonna be using that like crazy. That's how he like teleports. That's how he moves around really fast. So that's something that he's probably gonna start out with. And I feel like he has enough experience to at least keep up with the Guardian in terms of like
CQC,
how to use it,
like combat sense. Like he's incredibly efficient in combat, which is scary.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of domain expansion. I was having a brain fart. But how quickly do you think he used domain expansion? Because obviously the other stuff will follow from that.
Okay. The quickest he's ever done it in Shibuya was 0.2 seconds, and the effect of which I think lasted more than
not that. No, not that. As in a fight, not the cast time, because I agree he has really good cast time because of his training. No, I was more so, if he's throwing down against someone who's his equal, how far into the fight is he throwing out domain expansion?
Okay. Well, very quickly, especially if the other opponent, as we've seen in Gojo versus Sukuna, like if the other opponent has a domain expansion as well, like he's gonna want to test it out, right? To kind of clash. So we've seen how many times he's spanning domain expansion in the recent fight, and as soon as he did it, right, like it was like the very same chapter, like a couple of pages after the fight even started, they were just already doing a domain clash. So I figure like when Gojo notices the cursed energy going from the Guardian, he's gonna at least figure out or at least guess that he has like some sort of technique or domain expansion, right? It's not just all raw cursed energy that has no technique.
Like Gojo just needs an inkling of something, and like that'll do it, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Alright, yeah. Okay.
At least from a powerful opponent. Like he won't do that against like somebody who has like lower curse energy than him. He'll just like fuck around with them.
Okay.
If that's the case.
So let's talk about this interaction then. So they're both reality warpers because like of what they can do.
Right.
I'd be willing to grant on some level, since we're relativizing the scaling, that the Guardian could probably be slowed down or disrupted in some way. In domain expansion, but I don't think he'd be able to keep the Guardian away from him forever. I don't mean like it in a kill sense. I think the Guardian will find a way to get up close using one of his abilities.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I can definitely agree to that. It's just the thing is with his domain expansion, it's like when you're hit with it, there's no known counter to it. Like even if you're like touched by somebody else, or let's say if somebody else is touching you while the domain expansion is happening, right? Just a hypothetical, you're still gonna get like kind of stunned. Okay. And you're force fed information of like 2.5 years. So the only like real thing is like if Gojo touches you.
There is one thing though. When the Guardian's using Strand, they have access to the information analysis of the Strand world.
Okay.
They would build like, okay, you know in the Warp and Weft logs when Lightfall came out, it was talking about the experiences of the various Strand users and how like training for it went. I think the Guardian's Strand Dimension information analysis ability would tell him about domain expansion. I couldn't tell you if it'll tell you how to counter it, but it'll tell the Guardian the entire anatomy of the space, and probably some of Gojo's powers as they're fighting. I don't think it'll happen like instantly. See, you get the cosmic awareness part instantly, but that's what we read, right? I couldn't tell you if it'll like counter or if okay. The limit of what I'm saying is the limit we have for the lore is the Guardian will likely deduce the entire anatomy of Gojo's powers as well as domain expansion, but it will not tell him how to counter it. He has to find a way to do that himself. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. I mean, like I can see that, yeah, for sure. It's like the thing is when you're hit with his attacks, it's kind of like, I guess I wouldn't want to say it would be hard for the Guardian to kind of like think on the spot, when like he's being pressed. Because I could imagine, like, from years of experience that the Guardian's been alive, he's been in that situation a lot of times before. He's had to think on his feet.
Something like that. It's two things we can bring up. You remember like the King Soul raid?
Yeah.
The Guardian was massively outscaled the entire time. The fire team had to kind of just find the way in like the King Soul raid and kind of had to wing it the entire time.
Oh yeah, I forgot about raids. Yeah. So that's like, I guess, an example of thinking on your feet. Yeah.
Rolk would be a worse example because see, here's the context with Rolk. He held back, but a little bit. It's more that he held back his bloodlust and that he could kill you within like a couple seconds or so. That's what he held back. He was throwing down against the fire team.
like the entire time. He wasn't holding back a whole lot. Just
Right.
his one-shot hacks powers that, like, if he activated them, you could die within like a minute. That's the shit he held back. So I don't agree with Rolk being an example, but I would agree with Savathun being an example, but to a lesser extent. And the reason for it is because we beat her because of unconventional circumstances. Where I say with Oryx, although the circumstances were unconventional, they were contextually conventional in that case. Because we were still throwing down against them. But like, we scaled to him on a certain level because of those amps.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so I mean, I don't have a problem with even saying that, you know, the Guardian would be able to sort of deduce as the fight goes on some of the weaknesses to Gojo's ability. However, if it's like the only way that I see someone being able to overpower red, blue, or even purple, right, is if you adapt to it. And we've seen, like, if you can adapt to Gojo's ability, right, to the point where you're immune to it, or to the point where you have like great resistance, you might still be affected by the properties of it, but it's not going to like hurt you.
Exactly. Like, here's another thing I wanted to clear up, so it wasn't a problem later. We both agree that the Guardian obviously has a busted form of like adaptation and like, you know, like power progression, like both of those, because like they continually throw down against Hive all the time, but I agree that with the Guardian, see, I know Gojo has power growth too, right? Like he also gets stronger.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think their power growth is going to be similar enough that it would require like an institution of a weapon or a separate ability to probably hard counter like one of Gojo's powers.
But the thing is though, with Gojo, it's like his intensity will ramp up the more he's in a battle, right?
Yeah.
So especially if he uses something called Black Flash. Black Flash is something that is stated to amp your techniques like greatly, like your intensity and your speed, right? And I believe you have to hit the Black Flash within, I think, like a 1/10 of a second or something like that for it to actually work. And Gojo's able to hit it multiple times. Like, these are critical hits. Let me see. I don't know what the exact time is.
It's fine, but basically because of the time frame of the ability, and Gojo's stats inherently allow him to do this with ease, it wouldn't be an issue to execute it. Is the point, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I agree with that on some level. But then the Guardian also has like amps too. Like you like. They got damage resist, like they can just stack damage resist from like stasis and like woven mail. You know, they can use like the healing of like solar. They could like you know, even go into one of their boundless states too. Like they could go into a light boundless state or a dark boundless state.
Okay.
Like the Guardian has amps as well. You know, it makes their abilities more powerful. It's possible that the CQC gap between the Guardian and Gojo might actually widen a bit if we consider Black Flash, but also how the Guardian's amps work. Because it's not like they get like passive skill amps, right? Like when you use one of the darkness subclasses, you will. It's like Hokuto Shinken. You'll die if you try using it. You need a way to train it, right? But the Guardian's training with those abilities is different from the amps they get for those abilities. They get stronger, but they don't become sharper. They become stronger. When they become sharper, it's because of something they did to become sharper.
Okay.
So I would also,
like a result of physical training.
Yeah, like I think the Guardian would be able to like still keep up, but it'll probably be harder to fight Gojo up close. Once he starts using Black Flash.
Yeah, because that just like increases everything. But
yeah, because the problem is the Guardian can do like this, like the skill thing. They can do that too. They also have like the intensity of those attacks. But Gojo is more worried about being a CQC specialist as well. You know.
Yeah.
So so. at a certain point, once we're probably hitting like mid-diff and going past that, okay. I'll give, again, we're giving Gojo skill here, so, but the Guardian can go into a super state on top of a boundless state. Now, I couldn't tell you that's a 500,000 or like a 10 times difference if you stacked on the light or dark amp along with like your super, but I'd imagine it's a pretty girthy amp. Like, 10, 20 times is pretty reasonable, right?
Right.
What do you think they'd level each other out in that instance because of the stat difference combined with like Gojo's CQC?
Well,
remember,
the thing is, I think it's like. Go ahead.
Domain expansion's also making the Guardian slower in this case. That's
right.
Because I did agree on some level that domain expansion would still make the Guardian slower. That's why I think it'd probably level out more. If you have like an extreme stat advantage against someone who, while weaker, is faster and is a CQC specialist.
I mean, that's also the thing too. It's like Gojo knows he can't like constantly or continuously spam domains like infinitely. It's not like because domains like they draw upon a lot of cursed energy, but the 6 eyes kind of mitigates that. It still kind of like fries that, like if he does it too much, it'll fry the part of his brain that his curse technique is housed in. So he can use reverse curse technique, but it's kind of dangerous to do that. And
okay,
like his healing on top of that will be kind of like limited for his other parts.
Like, you can prove that he can use it and probably land it on the Guardian. You just can't prove that he'll be able to sustainably keep it up or use it as a win con, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, like he can't like spam it like constantly throughout the entire fight unless he spaces it out.
Yeah, I agree with
like
that.
He's not gonna be able to do like Sukuna versus Gojo, like where he did it 5 separate times in like back-to-back chapters.
Yeah. I can agree with that for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So then, okay, this
I
is
guess worst case if he does that, they both end up with like brain damage. But then I guess the ghost, if he's is the ghost, the ghost is in this fight. Then, he'll just like use his powers to heal him, and then Gojo will try to heal the part of his brain. That's kind of like fried, but it's kind of. I feel like the Guardian has faster healing.
Yeah, like see, here's the thing. It seems like Gojo's more offensive, but the Guardian is more tanky and can sustain combat for long periods of time.
Right.
Okay, so let's run through the other possibilities then.
Okay.
I'm sure because Kashimo is a thing, Gojo probably has some form of resistance or interaction with electricity, right?
I mean, I guess like his only resistance that I know to electricity would be his infinity. Like this is a resistance to pretty much everything.
Okay.
Kashimo is like his curse technique. It's like he can manipulate phenomena that's caused by electricity, and he does this via electromagnetic waves. So
okay, so what would happen if the Guardian summoned a thunderstorm inside domain expansion?
Well, I don't know if he could. I don't know if he'll be able to, because like the whole thing about Infinite Void, it's you're kind of like rush with information. And I know like with Strand, like does the subclass have to be equipped to be like kind of telling you the information that's going to take place?
No,
or is that just kind of like a?
You don't have to equip a sub. It's more so. Okay, think of the subclasses as like a training path, right? Each of these different philosophies come with a set of powers attached to them, but they're philosophies, right? The Guardian can use multiple of these philosophies in one setting. So it's not more so they can equip Strand, it's more so they have to use Strand in order to have those powers. But they could have Strand active while summoning a thunderstorm, in theory.
Okay. So then, yeah, I mean, if Strand would, give them that information that the domain expansion hits them with, then yeah, I can see them summoning a thunderstorm, but it depends on how fast it is,
Well,
and how late into the battle we are. Because if it's domain expansion, like if we're like midway into the battle, right, and everything is kind of like ramping up in intensity. If it's domain expansion, then like hollow purple, it's kind of like, you know,
hmm well,
it's
there
kind
is
of over.
another thing
But
then.
mhm.
The Guardian could use Stasis and Strand to not only make their damage resistance higher, but the Guardian could say summon a giant glacier castle thing and could like blow it up if Gojo tried fighting him in there. You know, for like the shatter
well,
damage.
well, the way a domain expansion works, it's like it's a barrier technique that you usually can't go outside of it or break it from the inside unless you
No,
have
no,
a
no, no.
domain
I'm
of
saying
your
the
own.
Guardian would do this from inside, like the domain expansion. Like we both agreed Gojo's going to use it fairly early, right?
Yeah.
So now it's more so like what the Guardian's going to do in there. Uh,
Mhm.
but I'm saying, what would happen if the Guardian just simply summoned some giant glacier trap, where he just stood in there and tried fighting Gojo, but like he blew it up? Like Gojo does have to engage him in CQC in order for his CQC advantage to uphold.
Right.
So, what do you think would happen if he did that? Like, I know he'd make barriers, but he'd still like sustain some damage, right?
Well, yeah, if it's in the domain, I know like you can't use your techniques within a domain unless you have like a better domain of your own. So, um,
Well,
that's also another thing too.
well then at that point, Strand is perfectly free. Stasis possibly, because that's also a darkness subclass.
Hmm.
Because like Gojo's no way to access the Strand dimension, and the Strand dimension connects to all things, metaphysical or not.
Okay.
So
But like we do agree like the light based subclasses they're kind of like not able to be used within like a domain.
I agree for Solar and Arc more than I do for Void, but I
Okay.
would agree with that most specifically for Stasis and Strand.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Because I know like the darkness subclasses would be, I think we said like, in the last part, it will be like kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
Because as
like
cursed energy. Or
yeah, like the light subclasses, those are like manifestations of creation, like manifestations of what's measured, and Gojo's power actually works more along the lines of darkness, where it's manifestation and will. So that's why I think Stasis and Strand, like we both agree those would work in there, and Void's just the weird one left out.
yeah,
Like it either does or
it's
doesn't, and we're
weird though
just not
because
sure.
it's like the that's like a light subclass. I'm still thinking in terms of like gameplay, but I don't know. I
Okay,
mean,
you know how a Titan uses like Bastion and like throws down an overshield?
mhm.
That's literal time and space. That's like a pocket fucking domain expansion. When like when he whips out a Word of Dawn, even though it doesn't really act like a universe.
Okay.
That's like literal time and space right there. But see, that's the weird part. It's also a light subclass, and it's not exactly darkness either. So I think we could
Right.
probably just leave Void as a gray area then.
Yeah, it would be like I guess like an outlier if anything.
Yeah. So
But
I would be willing to say that perhaps the majority of the Guardian's weaponry wouldn't work in domain expansion either. I'm not
Right.
sure if I said that about something like Wishender or like one of the other weird exotics, but I think for like over 95% their gear would be locked.
Yeah, it's only like a couple of weapons. I remember that we were talking about that would actually kind of be
Like,
good in this fight.
like the weapons of Sorrow, Galahorn, Hawkmoon, the Darkness weapons. Those are probably the most useful here too.
I'd only ask like for Gallahorn and like the weapons of sorrow. Like what would they be able to do against like infinity? Like let's say
Well,
like this is outside of the domain.
yeah, for Galahorn, that's made using like literal light. Like That's made using the light of the dead, so that's actually a paracausal weapon, and it scales to the other paracausal weapons that the Guardian has. It's just I wouldn't be using that as a win con because that's also a weird one. Like that's a solar rocket.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hawkmoon's Hawkmoon, right? It's a paracausal hand cannon. We know what it is.
Yeah.
Thorn. Okay, here's the thing about Thorn. It devours both light and dark. It devours whatever it hits, most specifically. Thorn in specific is the weird one.
But like the things like Necrochasm and then Osteostriga.
Yeah, Osteo, it's a little like Thorn, but I'm not sure. Well, probably Touch of Malice too, because
right,
like Oryx, but like I don't know about Necrochasm.
Mm-hmm.
Like
because I don't know if it has that. It doesn't have that kind of like same effect.
Well, the thing that Touch of Malice does have though is it works through barriers. Its purpose is specifically blinding people. You've seen what that Ball of Darkness does. It doesn't really give a fuck about what's in front of it. It just goes through the wall, literally.
Yeah.
I think Touch of Malice would blind Gojo for like literal below 5 seconds, but still blind him, right? So I think that would be a little annoying. But let's see.
I think that's also another thing too, because like with the 6 eyes, it's like it gives Gojo a kind of like a clear picture of cursed energy itself. But I don't know if he's ever been like blinded with an attack to the point where he can't really see anything, because he purposely wears like blind people's glasses so he can't like I don't want to say overload his brain, because I don't think that's a thing. It's more of like so he doesn't like kind of misuse the ability. But yeah, he like purposely blindfolds himself, so I don't know if
he's strategic about how he fights and like what he's showing off in a fight. So something like blinding from Touch of Malice would probably go through the blindfold, but I couldn't tell you if it actually will, because I haven't seen JJK, right?
Right, yeah, like because I don't even know how that would work.
Like I suspect it does, right?
I mean, I could see an argument, but it's just that I would want to see like something in the mind. Yeah, it is weird.
Well, let's see. I mean, we've gotten to like 30 minutes, so like, let's see. Gojo restricts a lot of the Guardian's weapons. They do restrict half or less than half of the Guardian subclasses, and the majority of the weaponry don't work. So
yeah, so it's only kind of like a couple of things that'll really give Gojo a hard time. Another thing is like I wanted to ask if Gojo's ability is being like cursed energy, like would that count as him being paracausal in a way, or because I know that you can't kill the Guardian unless you're paracausal yourself. You like kill his ghost.
By definition, he has overlapping paracausal properties, but the thing is, so do the Scions. So I don't know about being able to harm Ghost. That's the problem. I don't think he'll be able to, or he could, and we just don't know if he can.
Right.
I'd leave that in the gray area with the Void, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's see. Gojo has a chance of winning the fight earlier in the fight, but the Guardian has a good chance of outlasting Gojo in the long run. Is that correct?
Yeah, because like the longer that fight goes on, I feel like the
more tired,
the intensity will ramp up. Yeah, but it'll be more fatigued. For Gojo,
like the stress on Gojo. Like honestly, it seems like to me the Guardian can take everything Gojo can throw at him, but it's kind of hard to put Gojo down too, because it's literally his own fucking like universe thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he has more experience with cursed energy and how to manipulate it, using his powers and things like that. But
yeah, and like he can play keep away using CQC, right? The Guardian have to like actually be really creative here. So yeah. Right. So like what we give what, hide extreme diff to either side, right?
Yeah, no, I can definitely give that.
Okay, so alright, we'll just leave the recording here. It's already like fucking 33 minutes. So, but yeah, if y'all want Solar and I to do like more cool shit like this, like let us know, because like I didn't think it'd get like 33 minutes. So, but yeah, go sub to the brother Solar. He knows what he's talking about. I'll go ahead and let you do your outro, and then I'll end it.
Yeah, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I just want to know if you guys agree with our take or not. If you guys know about JJK at all, put it in the comments if you think we got something wrong or got something right and you liked it. But yeah, see you in the next one.
Yeah, and if you're on my channel and you're watching Solar here, go sub to his channel. He's the other Destiny guy. He knows what he's saying. He's pretty smart. I don't say that about a whole lot of people, but he's one of them that I do say it for. But yeah, I hope y'all have a good one. Like, share, sub if you're new. Sub to Solar if you're on my channel, and we'll see y'all later. Bye bye.